just I'm in a... Is that better? A little bit better. There we go. So how many of us are we theoretically going to be?
50 is what we are expecting, about 50 of us. So by the way, I'm Puneet.
Puneet, pleased to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm the founder for BWE. Started as a small group of people who were just sat at a bar and having a few drinks and discussed few watches. And then from there, it just kind of snowballed. And one of the few good things coming out of COVID is this community, because we could make it bigger and better because we had a lot of time at home, all of us. So we could spend more time with watches, with each other, virtually, of course. But it's been a good journey. So welcome, Max.
Thank you so much.
Excited and happy to have you.
Great to be here. And no, look, honestly, it's the same thing happened for me. Before, I used to travel like a madman because it was part of, when you're a brand which has no money for communication and which has got such an intense story, real story, not storytelling, real story behind the brand and what we're trying to achieve, it's very difficult to get that message through sales associates, however good they are. There's always a lot lost in translation. And so that was one of the many reasons I was going around. I mean, 1 week out of 2, I was somewhere. And also because a lot of our clients have become real great personal friends. And, oh, Max, when you're coming to LA? Oh, Max, when you're coming to Singapore? Then you're in Tokyo? And you're like, yeah, well, okay, I'll come and have lunch and dinner, basically. And then you realize that a year ago, I had never even heard of what an IG Live was. I'd never used Zoom in my life. And I ended up being in contact with all of them much more since, while staying at home / office, because I work from home. So it's funny because maybe you may or may not know that I moved to Dubai with my family 6 years ago, and everybody thought I was completely insane. Like, what is this Swiss watchmaker with his workshops in Geneva, everybody in Geneva doing in Dubai? And the reason was my elder daughter was only 1 year old. I had my kids much later in life. I had my first at 46, my second at 50. And I didn't want to do the same thing my dad did with me, i.e. never see him. And I thought, if I live next to the workshops, I'm never going to see my child and then children. So I told my wife, let's move. And she's like, wait a minute. You're married to your job. You're married to your company. I said, that's the problem. You knew that when you signed on. My kids didn't sign on anything. So we started looking around, and we came over here, honestly, with my 1-year-old daughter, 3 suitcases, and rented a house and started looking if something worked out. Now, 6 months later, my wife seemed happy. I seemed to be able to manage the company without a Zoom. There was no video conference in those days. And we thought, well, this may be working out. And I would go to Geneva 4 days every month, arrive on a Monday afternoon and leave on a Friday afternoon. And it worked superbly. So when COVID hit and this whole working from home thing and everybody was going bananas, oh my God, how do we do this? It was like, this is a story of my last 5 years. The only difference, again, is that there were no Zooms. So now, before I could actually answer an email whenever I wanted and call a person whenever I felt it was important, now if you look at my schedule, I've got like 4 hours of Zooms minimum, every day scheduled every day, and we do all these meetings. And are we more efficient? I have to unfortunately say yes. Am I enjoying it as much? I definitely have to say no. It's much less fun than it used to be. But that's the price to pay. But just look at watch shows. I mean, we all thought we couldn't live without SIHH and Basel. We were doing both. We're the only insane brand which had an official booth in SIHH and an official booth in Basel. And everybody's looking at me going, what are you doing? Why are you there? And I was like, because that's so important to be in contact with everybody. And we spent an enormous amount of our minute budget, marketing budget. It was like 40% of our global marketing budget was those 2 fairs. And actually more than that, 45, something like that. This year, third week of Jan, we called up on Zoom all our 29 retailers have become 26. We've just got 26 retailers, 1 hour each, showed them images of the new products. We took a ratio of 4:1. That's never, ever happened to us. Meaning, for every watch we're crafting this year, we took 4 orders. Meaning we had to tell 75% of every order we took was, we can't give it this year. And you know how much the cost was? 0, absolutely 0. A backdrop, a computer, and hello, my friends, this is what we have now. I want 3, I want 5, I want 2. I'm like, okay, this is incredible. So yeah, there have been some silver linings, golden linings, platinum linings, call them whatever you want. Anyway, sorry, I'm talking. Ritti, it's your show, all yours.
Okay, so Puneet, do we start now?
Let's just wait for a minute or two.
Sure. Yeah. Let me put a bit of water in the glass because something tells me I may need it. So I count on all of you guys on questions. So I can be very chatty, way too much. You can basically put it on Ritti, you can basically tell me to shut up. But what's interesting is really to have an interaction if we can have that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a part of the plan. So I'll just take you through it. So we'll start with Ritti asking a few questions. I'll probably butt in. We just get to know you better, all of us. Followed by some exciting rapid fire round for you where, we'll ask you basic questions. It's all right. And followed by an open house where everyone can ask their own questions to you and just chat up. We all are here for the love of watches. And I think by the end of it, we're going to be here for the love of designs also.
And what I want to say is that there are no off-limits questions, guys.
Perfect.
None. I've done a few of these, not many, where I've been asked, what happens if you die? I'm like, okay, let's talk about it. And other really interesting questions. But there is no off-limit because I built my company and my life on complete transparency. It makes for an interesting life. When I was 18, I decided that, not that I lied a lot, probably not much, but every time I lied, I would get all red and look so guilty that everybody knew I was lying. So when I was 18, I decided I am not going to lie anymore in my life. And I'm 54 now, guys. So over all these years, I've always put myself in situations where I never had to lie. And I always was able to tell the truth as it is. And MB&F is even 10 times more there. The complete transparency of what we're doing is based also on that. It's one of giving back. All the people have helped us in the journey. So the least I can do is to credit them, but actually to give all our numbers. At the end of this year, if everything goes well, we will be the first brand to come out with what is called a catalogue raisonné. Now, what is a catalogue raisonné? In the art world, it's the books which basically tell you exactly what art pieces an artist has done, in how many editions, how many lithographies, whatever, etc. Picasso's got 33 volumes of his catalogue raisonné. We're only going to have one book of about 280 pages, which will give every single piece we have created over the last 15 years, how many were made, in which years, if there was one prototype or 2 prototypes, etc. The complete roster of products. No watch brand has ever dared do that because they probably can't. So it's part of being completely transparent. And it was funny because I was just having a coffee with one of my good retailers who's just visiting Dubai, and he was like, oh, I've got this LM Perpetual in titanium, and could you actually, can I send it back and you can put it in the Evo case because I really want an Evo, I couldn't get one. I'm like, no. Yeah, but every brand X, Y, and Z does it for, I'm like, no, because we said there were going to be 50. They're going to be 50. So we're not going to start taking your movement, and we said they were only going to be 3 times 15. So they're going to be only 3 times 15. So if I start taking one from there, it becomes 3 times 15. Oh, 1 is 16. we're actually lying to our customers. So all of this has been done in a way where, again, I'm sorry, I'm digressing, and that happens a lot. No questions are off limits.
You will probably be loaded with questions.
I think on that note, great. Puneet, do you want to start?
Cool. Yeah, I think it's already 3:35.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, what just happened? All right.
There's Ariel there. It's Bombay Watch Club, eh?
Yeah, I keep Bombay hours. Didn't you know that, Max?
Okay, this is amazing. Great to see you there.
Yeah, I was invited. I was told that you needed some company, so here I am.
You're always there. Always welcome. Anyway, guys, all yours.
All
what
right.
did I miss?
Nothing yet.
Nothing.
Okay.
Cool.
Hey.
Thank you for coming, everyone. So again, I welcome all of you all to another mad episode this time of Risk Talks with BWE. BWE stands for Bombay Watch Enthusiasts. I'm sure most of us know by now. We are a small but a very enthusiastic watch community from the city of Bombay, India. We have members from all over the country now and also world due to COVID again. And we hold these small sessions with the greats of the watch industry just from an angle to learn from them, to get their passion and hopefully aspire to buy one of their masterpieces, right? So today we have with us, I would call him an emotional engineer, a designing guru, and a loving father, Max Büsser from MB&F. Max has spent over 20 years in the watch world, from JLC, Harry Winston, to making his own brand in 2005. I can take the freedom to say that from the depths of failures, Max, I was reading and I was doing some research, and I've seen that your life, you have faced a lot of downfalls too, and to the heights of success which you are seeing right now. I mean, you've seen it all. And that's the most inspiring thing for all of us out here, because, it's not always a sunny day anywhere, right? So, yep, that. And Max designs objects, I would say, not watches or not horological machines only. I think, Max, you design objects which happen to tell the time in some or most of the cases, right?
I use watchmaking as my canvas, basically.
Yeah.
I deconstruct, I reconstruct. It's not only, I mean, we actually did music boxes, we even did pens. It's become now slowly to mechanical sculptures, I'll call them. I've designed a super cool coffee machine, but I can't find any company who's willing to manufacture it. And I'm working with an incredible loudspeaker manufacturer who's like super high end, but very classic. And I'm designing like the world's weirdest, craziest loudspeaker. But it has to be a mechanical object in a way, and that makes me happy.
Well, beautiful, perfect. And along with Max, we obviously have Rithi, who is our core member, BWE member since a long time now. She is the only person from India who's been fortunate to work with JLC as a designer. So she also has a design background in watches. Right now, she runs her own brand in India from the city of Ahmedabad. It's called Luxury Watch Week. Sorry, Rithi, can you help me there?
India Luxury Week.
India Luxury Week. Sorry, there's a lot of luxury. India Luxury Week, so she's running that, and she's a very, very enthusiastic watch collector and a member for all of us. So, Rithi, over to you, and Max, we are eagerly waiting for this.
So I'll just quickly introduce Max. Max is the most humble watch CEOs I've ever met, and he knows.
No humble watch CEOs, that's why.
But he creates beautiful, absolutely unique objects which breathe life. So, most of his objects have a heart and they have a soul. You can actually see them alive. So, welcome, Max. And we're very, very happy to have you here. I think it's been a dream of mine. I've chased you for I don't know how many years. Like a fan all around Dubai Watch Week. But I'm so glad that we are doing this finally after a few years. And happy to have you here. So, Max, from your early days when you were in the army to, early 20s, until now. Can you briefly just introduce your journey just to give everybody a fair background?
Okay, I'm very sorry for the guys who already know my background, because it seems that I can't tell it a different way each time. My dad was Swiss, my mother was Indian. That always shocks a lot of people. I was born in Italy, but brought up in the French part of Switzerland as a little Swiss boy. And I wanted to be a car designer my whole youth. And my dad couldn't afford to send me to the car design school, which was Pasadena. So I said, okay, I'll do engineering. So I did Polytechnic in Lausanne and did 5 years of engineering. And at the end of that, by an incredible chance, I fell into watchmaking, which is a whole other story, but I won't bother that last 10 minutes for that. And so I was very, very lucky to be hired by a gentleman called Henri John Belmont, who was the CEO of Jaeger LeCoultre 30 years ago. Basically, he arrived at the end of 87 or 88. And he hired me in 91. And he was trying to resuscitate that beautiful brand, which was coming out of 20 horrible years. And the head Henri John's boss was a gentleman called Günther Blümlein. For anybody who loves watchmaking, Günther Blümlein must strike a chord. He is the genius, and I very rarely use that word, who was the head of IWC and Jaeger, and he was resuscitating both, basically. And he then single-handedly went on to create Lange, or recreate Lange. And so I did 7 years at Jaeger LeCoultre, started off as product manager, basically the hub of all the creativity, working with the designer, the engineers, but also working with the sales guys and the marketing people for whatever. We were not very good at marketing. And so I did 7 incredible years there, and the company was minute when I arrived and really thrived in the 7 years. I was just part of the cogs in that machine. And then I got headhunted to become the managing director of Harry Winston Timepieces. That was 98. I was 31. And what I didn't know was that Harry Winston Timepieces was virtually bankrupt. So I am 31 and I'm given the keys of a completely broken down car. And I'm told, well, make it work. And what I didn't know either is that Harry Winston, like a week after I signed my contract, was put on sale, the whole brand, because of many, many issues I will not talk about here. So that was probably the worst year of my life, 1998, 99. It was an absolutely horrible year. And we, with the little team I'd inherited, which was only 7 people at Harry Winston Timepieces, we managed to more or less stabilize the company by 2000. And then that was incredible. So 2000 to 2005, we took that company, well, we multiplied by, I think, 10, the revenue. And we created the Opus, we created the manufacture and Bombay Watch, and we really made I think, what was a little accessory to a great jeweler in those days became pretty much a brand. I'm not exactly sure where it is now because I left 16 years ago, but it was an incredible story. So 2 things happened during those 7 years. First was I discovered I was actually capable of that. There are no university or any school courses would tell you how to save a company, be a manager, be a change management person, etc., etc. And I was learning as I was trying, and I screwed up umpteen times. And the second thing was, the bigger the company was getting, the more great it was, and the more I was getting great feedback and great money and all that, the less I was happy, and I didn't really understand why. It was more that I felt guilty, because when you come from where I come from, which my parents, even though they had an international background, they had no money at all. I should have been just super grateful and super happy in my job. And a lot of things happened. I always credit my dad passing away, who actually passed away in Bombay, by the way, on the 31st of December 2001. And I cried 12 seconds and got on with my life. And a year later, I realized that this was way not over. And I decided to go into therapy, which as a Swiss engineer is not the first solution you choose. And then we worked on regrets with the therapist a lot. And at some point I realized I need to do in my life what I will be proud of when I'm basically the last day of my life. I want to be able to look back and say, I did well. Did well means I'm proud of what I've done. I stuck to my principles. I did what I believed in. I was a good person. My mom was a Parsi, so good thoughts, good words, good deeds was the way I was brought up. And from there, I started the idea of MB&F, which was totally impossible, of course, because I didn't have that sort of money to create a watch brand. And the one thing I was sure of is I wanted no financial shareholders, because as soon as you have financial shareholders, they're only interested logically in one thing. Well, actually two things, growth and profits. And what I wanted to do, I didn't even know if it would ever take off. So I didn't want to sell something to somebody and then they would hate me because it didn't take off or it went bankrupt or whatever. And 2005, 25th of July, 2005, I quit Harry Winston. I resigned 3 months before. And as soon as I resigned, I incorporated MB&F, Maximilian, Büsser, and friends. And it was a company which had one employee for 2.5 years. That's me, which had no salary and worked from his flat in Geneva. And when I look at where we are now, it seems a surreal story. So there you go. That's the story of starting MB&F.
Wow.
Wow, yeah, you've had quite an incredible journey, I must say that. And from someone who's worked at a classic brand like JLC to working with independence at, Harry Winston on the Opus, and then to becoming an independent yourself, how would you explain your evolution as an artist, as a creator, and an entrepreneur?
By the way, guys, I didn't receive any questions beforehand. So if you see me think, it's because I have to think about it. I actually never thought of myself as an artist because it was my car designing when I was a kid was like a hobby where my parents would look at me and go, he'll get over it. Never saw myself as an entrepreneur because there was absolutely no example around me. My dad worked for a big corporation. My mom didn't work, and everybody around me just worked for big companies. So, and Switzerland is by far not the place. It's like the absolute opposite polarization of Silicon Valley. Like entrepreneur is like, you must be completely insane to think about that. And so I actually, it's a journey of self-discovery. First, that to have taken that choice of actually taking the job at Jaeger when the watch world, mechanical watch world was dead, and everybody around me, my parents included, looked at me and like, you're going to do what? You're going to work for a watch company? But aren't they all going to go bankrupt? And working in the Valley Jew, it's cute, but it's not the most glamorous place on the world. And so when you're 24 years old and tell your friends that are going to work for Price Waterhouse or Procter & Gamble or whatever glamorous big company, that you're going to work for a semi-bankrupt watch brand in the Valley Jew where there are more goats than human beings, it's not exactly the first thing which comes to mind. So that first gut decision of going there is going to completely change my life. You know, everybody talks these days about we need to give our employees a purpose. People who work for a company need a purpose, and the purpose cannot be making more money for the shareholders, which has been, since Gordon Gekko in the 80s, what everybody has been doing for 40 years. So I was incredibly lucky that Henri-John Belmont gave us all a purpose, which was we tried to save this company. It was never about the money. There was no glam, there was no glitter, there were no influencers, there was no nothing, and everybody thought we were insane. So I was very lucky to start there. And it's this journey of self-discovery. You discover that what you love, you discover that you love watchmaking, you discover you love working with great people. And then this crazy jump of going to Harry Winston, where Jaeger was my family. It was an insanely complicated decision for me. But at some point I thought, I'm 31, the guys are giving me the keys of the company. I never aspired ever to be a CEO in my life. Not where I come from. You don't become a CEO. And these guys, even though it's a small company, are saying, it's going to be you. You're going to be driving it. And I thought, I have to try, even if I fail, because otherwise, how can I look at myself in the mirror and afterwards saying, oh, you played it safe and you didn't take the risk. So I had to try. I must admit, 98, 99, I thought it was the stupidest decision of my life. And then it turned out pretty well. And then what I discovered during the Harry Winston days is who I was. So if we want to say, at Jaeger, I discovered how my love for the world, watchmaking, and how to work. I owe so much to the Jaeger Cult days. This is a pre-Richemont, by the way. We were owned by the Mannesmann Group, who didn't even understand why they owned this company, and so I discovered how to work. And in Harry Winston, I discovered who I was. It was very much a beginning of a psychotherapy, and then the decision to take MB&F. It's been 16 years of intense psychotherapy, because there is the romantic idea of being an entrepreneur, and there is reality. If there are any entrepreneurs amongst all of you, I'm sure you'll relate to that. And you start off with nothing, and you've got this dream of basically being yourself, not being linked to anything which you don't want anymore. This is your pure essence of an idea. And then you discover that the world is not waiting for you, and is actually not very welcome. And then you see how it is. But it's like bringing up children. I slept 3 hours last night because my 3-year-old is in the moment of fright nights. She wakes up, she doesn't know why, she's scared. She comes barging into the room. I have to put her back to bed, stay with her for half an hour. She comes barging in 2 hours later. Am I pissed off? No. Am I tired? Oh God, yes. They're my children. And when you're an entrepreneur, you do whatever you have to do, and you're never tired and you're never fed up, because it's your child. Again, I'm not sure I completely answered your question, but that's where my mind took me.
Can you tell us a little more about your time at Jaeger-LeCoultre? Like, we've heard a lot. We all know your time at Harry Winston. We know a lot of what you do now, but pretty much your time at Jaeger-LeCoultre is it's not known yet.
I love that you give me that question. When I entered Jaeger-LeCoultre, the year before, we had done 17 million Swiss francs, 17, which is the revenue I do with MB&F over the last 5-6 years, because I always do the same revenue at MB&F. And we were 220 employees. Now, maybe in India that's normal, but 220 Swiss salaries, I can tell you one thing, that is not a business. And so it was a really dire situation. And I remember as a product manager, I was going to try to see the greatest distributors. We still had distributors in those days. They don't exist anymore. We'd go and see the greatest retailers and explain to them product strategy. And they would look at me and go, young man, you want us what? To sell a mechanical watch? Now, today it seems a joke, but like, why would we sell a mechanical? And then, why would we sell that thing which turns? I mean, nobody's going to buy a watch which turns. This is when there's no reason to turn. And oh, that reverso is hand winding. Okay, mechanical is already tough, but it's hand winding. What? There's no date? How can we sell a watch which doesn't have a date? And it's not water resistant? Are you insane? And it's the price of an automatic steel oyster? I mean, are you crazy? And we would get all these doors shut in our face. And we were there with our little watch going, oh shit, okay, let's go to the next door. And it was incredible because we tried so many things to try and actually save Jaeger. When I entered, there were like 9 lines of products. there was the Heraeon, the Odysseus, the Krios, the Rendezvous, which has nothing to do with today's Rendezvous. There was the Gentilhomme, which was an absolute copy-paste of Calatrava. There was the Séductrice, which looked like a sort of cashmere chapa. Basically, a look-alike of everything which existed, we tried. And we would sell in a lot, and nothing would sell out. Because the retailers thought, oh, that's good, that looks like that, and I don't have that brand, so I'll take it. And they never could sell anything. And the only watch they didn't want to buy was the Reverso, because it looked like nothing. And that ended up being the watch we started selling. And then, of course, we cleared up, started Master Control. That was end of 92. And that was fun also. 1,000 hours control. And we got every single crazy guy who had a Junghans Mega GSM, or not GSM, whatever, these satellite-driven, it was the beginning of the satellite-driven clocks, who would actually write us letters timing every day, saying, oh, it lost 2 seconds there, and it gained 3 seconds there. I am so unhappy. I'm telling you, but this is not about being more precise. This is just about being more reliable. Because in those days, we discovered that, of course, you had what's it called, the superlative chronometer. The superlative chronometer, you send only the movement to the testing base. They put it in a working case. There's no dial, no hands, and they test it for X days. And then, of course, as soon as you start putting a dial and hands and casing it in the final product, it's a completely different result. Nobody's ever going to tell you that. And so what we did is we did that, and we tested them for 6 weeks. So normally a watch would be tested for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 days. 6 weeks. And I'm not even sure I can tell you all of this, but I think that the first batch in 92, I think like 15% of our watches passed the test. It was a disaster. None of them passed the test. And we discovered all sorts of things on our own movements because we put them through those 6 weeks of tests. And it was an incredible improvement factor. We worked like day and night to improve our products to make sure that. And one of the things we discovered is that, you test your watch for precision, but you test it for all sorts of other things, of course, but you test it for precision because that's what everybody looks at if they do. And actually for the first 2 weeks, every day we would have different precisions. So maybe on Thursday it was losing 3 seconds, on Friday it's gaining 10, and it was like this all over the place. And only after 2 weeks, when the oils have settled, that you start having a very clear line, which could be there or there or there. And then only there can you start playing with the racket, saying, oh, it's going a bit fast, it's going a bit slow. So what we were doing, and all watch brands, and I don't know what watch brands do now, but all watch brands in those days, they would test them for 4 or 5 days. The 5th day would say, oh, it's plus 10, put the racket back. But maybe the next day was going to be -3. And so all this we discovered, it was really a journey of, again, of self-discovery. And what was incredible was there were no superstars at Jaeger. It was only a great MD and a great CEO who had a vision and who brought an incredible team together of wonderfully nice people and who lived the brand. Were they all super competent? No. But together, we were by far much more important than the sum of each of us. And that's what Henri-John Belmont and Günther Blümlein did. And that's probably one of the greatest lessons I got out of Jaeger. It's give a purpose, give something to people to be proud, and you get a great team, however good each individual is.
So
if I'm talking much too much, you can cut me short, you can let go.
Yeah, I think, Max, this is a similar kind of a culture which you have in MB&F right now, right? You consider the French part as your employees, and they're not your employees, they're a team. And I mean,
they're a team. I mean, they're definitely not my employees. I mean, there are some which are, with 30 now, I said we would never be more than 15. But there's a good 100 people we have worked over 15 years. We're not always some 5 years ago, some 10 years ago, some we're going to work with new people. But treat people the way you want to be treated. That's a simple phrase. All our parents, basically, no, what our parents would tell us is, do not treat people the way you don't want to be treated. I basically turned it round, and like even just crediting every single person who works on our piece. If I was a supplier, subcontractor, whatever I do, and I work for brand X, Y, and Z, I would really like that brand to say, he's the or she's the person who did it. Do the brands in Switzerland do that? Of course they don't. So I just did it because it's the right thing to do. So it's not a marketing scheme, because a lot of people are like, oh, a great story. I'm like, no. And then you see that suddenly everybody's much happier and much prouder to work on a project. That wasn't the goal, but it's just treat people the way you want to be treated.
Super.
That's quite a lesson, I think, for all of us. In fact, till the time, it's been 4 years that I was there at JLC, and everybody still praises Henry John Belmont, and like every wall, every person we have so many good things to hear about him, and also Gunter Blumlein. I would like to know, I think I've heard you mention that there was a time when you had a disagreement with Gunter Blumlein.
That's a story I've told a couple of times, and it was incredibly transformative for me. Gunter Blumlein was arguably the smartest person I've met in the watch industry. He was an engineer, but passionate about watches, and he was thinking all the time, and he was very quick, very brilliant. And he could basically, you could tell him basically, oh, this watch has a blue dial, and he'd look at you and he could manage to tell you, of course, why are you saying that? It hasn't got a blue dial, it's got an orange dial. I'm going to explain to you why it's got an orange dial. And after 10 minutes, you're listening to him, and you're like, yeah, of course it's got an orange dial. Why did I think it was blue? And then he looked at you, he said, of course it's blue. Because he would always want to debate. And very few people, he was a very formidable man. And people were in awe of him. And when we had our product meetings, everybody would shut up after 12 seconds because he was so good at what he did. And I was the, how do you call them? Those yappy dogs, Jack Russell. I was the Jack Russell. And so when everybody was shut up, I was the product manager. It was my job to defend our projects. And I would battle with him. And of course, he would always show me why I was wrong. And one day, we won something which was aesthetic. And he wanted to go there. And I say we, but I was representing we wanted to go there. And so I didn't let it go. And I knew usually that you have to let it go. And I didn't let it go. And after like 5 minutes of debate, he looked at me and he had these half glasses, which he had on his nose. And you knew that when he took it off, you were in trouble. So he took them off and he looked at me and I could see he was getting really upset. He said, Mr. Büsser, creativity is not a democratic process. And that is probably one of the 2 or 3 greatest lessons I ever got. You want to create something really amazing, don't let it ever be a democratic process. So a lot of people ask me today, how does MB&F function with all the friends? Like a committee with 20, 30, 40 people and everybody gives their ideas? No way. You can't do what we've done by asking everybody what they would do. So the best way I can describe myself, and I'm not proud of it, is an enlightened dictator. I like the enlightened part, but I need to be a dictator because it's my baby, it's my ideas, it's my product. And I'm sorry if it's all about me in this case, but that's how it works. Do I listen to everybody? Of course. Do some of the ideas I hear are fantastic? Absolutely. Do I integrate them and credit the person for it? Yes. At the end of the day, if you want to create real creativity, it can never be a committee, and it has to be one person deciding. And it can't be the CFO, and it definitely can't be the chief marketing officer, and it has to be the creative director or the owner of the company.
Yeah, that is true. And following that, you never liked the idea of a classic round watch, right? So how did you convince your team that we have to go ahead do a round watch? Was it difficult to sell this idea to them?
It was difficult to sell to my team, but it's much more difficult to sell it to myself. When I created MB&F, I think I was a very angry man. There was a lot of anger. Even though I tend to look like a pretty nice, respectful person, I can be pretty much boiling inside. And I think I was really angry with myself because I felt I'd sold out, because I'd become a marketeer. And at Harry Winston, I was creating a ton of products I didn't even like because I thought they would sell. I was very angry with my industry. I still am pretty much. Because when I started 30 years ago, we had no money at all, but we were super creative. I mean, when you see what happened in the 90s in the watch industry, and now arguably we copied a lot of what pocket watches had done and whatever, but there was a lot of things happening, and there were no marketing people who said, oh, this is what the market wants. It's just like, oh, this is a brand needs a perpetual calendar, and brands needs to do a tourbillon or whatever, and we have to do it differently, and we have to do it the way we want, etc. And then the industry became bigger and bigger, and really, it's probably a $40 billion industry now. It's not an insignificant industry. We're just talking of Swiss watches. There's never been that much money, and I felt that there'd never been that little creativity anymore. And so I was very angry, and clearly at MB&F, we were going to never do a round watch. So HM1, HM2, HM3, HM4, of course HM5, 6 were in the pipeline. And actually LM1, Legacy 1, was never supposed to be a round watch. It was never supposed to be a new line. It was an HM. It was an HM where I wanted to have the balance wheel as the star. And so I kept on designing a watch which was made out of tubes. One tube was going to be the balance wheel, one tube was going to be the hours and minutes, and one tube was going to be the power reserve indicator. It was like a tubular watch. And every attempt I did with my good friend Eric Giroux, who is this absolutely fantastic designer and a good friend, great friend for the last 20 years, looked absolutely horrible. Now, horrible in my eyes. Maybe people will think it's beautiful. But for months and months, I was driving him nuts, trying to change, oh, just change that, let's change this. Or it looked too much like one piece unique that Vianney Halter had done for Cold File in 2001. Like, you really have to be a total watch geek to know about that watch. He'd done one watch, which was made out of like tubes, which had no balance wheel apparent. But every time I designed something, it looked like that friggin' Gold File Vianney Halter watch. And I would never accept that. So here we are, frustrating meetings one after the other. And at some point, I just go bananas in the meeting and say, you know what? Let's just strip it, go down to basics. Let's just do a round watch, and I sketch exactly what LM1 is going to look like. Let's do 2 times on, this like flying balance wheel, a dome. The power reserve wasn't yet clear. And everybody's looking at me like that. And Eric, who is arguably one of my best friends, the best man at my wedding, got up super angry and said, I mean, what even is the point of this? This poor guy has been working for months on my tubular thing, and suddenly I want to do a round watch. And he storms out of the meeting. Serge Kriknoff, my CTO, who's also my partner in the company, joined me 12, 13 years ago, and I gave him 20% of the company to join me. So I've got 80-20. Looked at me and very respectfully looked at me and said, Max, all of us here, we were, I think, 8, I think we were 8 in the company. We didn't join MB&F to create a round watch. And I was like, you know what? A great tree needs great roots. And at the end of the day, we wouldn't exist if the great masters of the 18th and 19th century hadn't created these extraordinary pieces of classical pocket watches, which even today I find still way more beautiful than most wristwatches. And I think we can sort of call it like a tribute. It's a tribute to those guys. So it's a different thing. And everybody was like, what is he doing? And, you know, if I don't get that from my team, oh God, now where is he going? I start getting really nervous because I start feeling that maybe I'm becoming commercial, or I'm selling out, or I'm creating vanilla ice cream. And so from time to time, like with the Flying T, or with a few of the things you're going to see this year, where they're like, you really think that's what we should do? And when I get that question, I know I'm onto something. And that's how it works. That's the beginning of Legacy One. So it's the 10th anniversary. Actually, we go, oh, news. What are we, 28th? I think in less than a month, we're launching LMX, the 10th anniversary legacy machine piece. That's something we've been working on for many years. So yeah, good grief, 10 years. I feel like it was yesterday, 10 years.
So now how many movements do you launch in a year? Like,
we've done, we've created and crafted 18 different calibers in 15, now 16 years. In 2014, we nearly put the company bankrupt because everything was going super well. The sales were always, as I said, I capped my revenue since 2013 and always the same revenue because I just don't want my company to grow. And we nearly went belly up because in 2012, I started thinking that doing one caliber a year was not enough. Now, how insane is that? Do you know any big brand which comes out with one fully new caliber? I'm not talking of, oh, now we made a little bit bigger, or the power reserve is there, or now it's whatever. I mean, little modifications around movement. We're talking a fully new movement. And I thought, you know what, guys, let's do 2 movements a year. So 2014, we came out with the HM6 Space Pirate, which was insane. And our very first in-house development, the Legacy 101. I say very first in-house because it was actually engineered in-house. We had 1 engineer for through 2-3 years. Now we've got 5 engineers in-house, full-time, working on all our new calibers. And so 5 out of 30, yeah? And so that was 2014. And 2015, we planned on the incredible Stephen McDonnell perpetual calendar and the HMX to celebrate the 10th anniversary of MB&F. Well, guess what? Financially, there is absolutely no way we could sustain creating 2 new calibers a year. The sheer amount of millions of dollars necessary, not only for the R&D, but for all the different prototypes and the components. You know that when you launch a watch and you say, okay, for example, I was an HM6, a Space Pirate. We decided we're going to do 25 every year. Over 4 years, there were going to be 100 movements. How many wheels do you think you're going to machine the first year? 25? Of course not. You're going to machine 200 wheels. Because once it's taken 2 days to calibrate your machine, you're not going to do just 25 wheels. So you're going to do the whole run. And then you're going to at least do 50 more for the after-sales service for the next 50 years. And then you're going to do another 50 because something is, excuse my English, going to screw up in the whole process between the machining, the hand finishing, the plating, and the assembly. So the sheer amount of components you're buying, manufacturing, depending, because now we manufacture a lot in-house, but in those days was buying, is way more than the revenue that you're going to actually do of the first 25 watches. So your cash flow negative, 4 years of development, 5th year of launch, and if you're lucky, your cash flow positive for the next 2 or 3 years of the life of the product. Again, don't have to have done an MBA to realize that's a really, really bad business model. And when you start coming out with 1 caliber every year or 2 calibers every year, it keeps on accumulating. So, okay, it's again a very long answer for your very short question. We tend to do 1 caliber a year, and this year we're going a little bananas again, and we're going to come out with 2 calibers. It's a stretch, but I think it's worth it.
And you know, this year it has been the pandemic's been there, and it has affected a lot of businesses all over. How was it for MB&F? And if you were to give an advice to a few of our entrepreneurs here, because a lot of us are entrepreneurs, what advice would you give us?
Okay, that's going to be a long answer. First, what happened to MB&F? That's the easy part. March last year, when I saw it was going to hit the world, I thought it was going to be game over. I remember doing a Zoom, because I was blocked in Dubai. We were all blocked in our different, well, Switzerland and Dubai in this case. And I told my team, we're lucky if we do minus 50% this year. Everyone was like, what do you mean? I was like, oh, it's going to be over in June. I was like, are you nuts? I remember telling them, by end of 2021, this is not going to be over. Everyone looked at me like, oh, how can you say that? I was like, this is going to be a bloodbath. And so it's going to be horrible. We have to cut whatever we can. But what we're going to try and do is not let anybody go in the team. We're also lucky that Switzerland, being a European country, they've got help. They did a lot of help for people who had employees and had to put them off. They couldn't work because we were in lockdown. But still, we were going to lose 2 to 3 million Swiss francs, I thought. Luckily, we had that money because I've left every single gain of the company in the company for the last 15 years. The company's never lost any money. And so I've left everything in it. So I was like, okay, this is going to be really tough, but we can get over it. And then something incredible happened in April. April, 27 of our 29 retailers were closed. Lockdown. And sell out was 12 watches. So normally we did 215 watches last year and the year before. Our sellout is usually a little bit more than our sell-in. So it will be, I don't know, 16 to 19 pieces a month. And then every single retailer was closed and we sold 12 pieces. And then May, sellout went over 20 pieces. June, everything went ballistic. I don't know if you remember, we came out with this really cool double collab with our friends from H. Moser and this LM101 H. Moser. And then they had the Endeavor. And our 60 LM101 H. Moser sold through in 4 days. That's never happened to us, ever. And I was like, whoa, what's happening here? And it just continued escalating. And we ended up the year at plus 30% sellout on 2019, which was our best year. And our deliveries were the same as the year before in 215 pieces. So just there was this whole void of watches which disappeared. And so it was our best year in sellout. It was very tough production-wise because, of course, I'd cut everything in March thinking it's Armageddon. In Switzerland, there's a lot of inertia. People who know Swiss watchmaking industry, if you cut March, April, May, and then suddenly in June you say, you know what, guys, I think this is actually going better than what we thought, so we're going to actually relaunch. And then everyone goes, oh, no. Oh, then we can't give you this year. It's not going to happen. And plus, a lot of our subcontractors got hit really hard because if they were working for the big brands, they got whacked. We immediately cut everything. So they had to put a lot of people unemployed, and it was a really, really complicated situation for them. And so January this year, we've done the best January of our history, and every single watch we've delivered is on the wrist of somebody. And in end of Jan, as I was explaining, we did our, we did our we did our, no, I was telling you guys at the beginning, we did our virtual presentation to our retailers, and we took 4 to 1, which has never happened. 4 orders for every watch we're going to craft this year. Now, I'll be very honest. I actually cannot pinpoint why we were so successful. I would love to, because if I had that recipe, it would be the recipe.
Do you think it's karma or luck? Because you believe in karma, right? So
I 100% believe in karma.
do you believe it's karma or luck what happened to you?
No, I think it's karma. I really believe it, because I think it's an aggregation of 15 years of incredible work, great ethics, never overproducing, not wanting to grow, delivering great quality. Last year, at the end of last year, we had delivered globally in 15 years something like 2,700 watches, and 2,500 and something on somebody's wrists. And you know how many out of 18 calibers, and not simple calibers, really complicated calibers. Do you know how many pieces we got back in after sales service last year? And every single after sales service is done by us. 72. 72 out of 2,700 pieces out of 18 calibers. So I think it's also the result of great work. And that's my Calvinistic upbringing coming out. But I also think that we've always given a purpose to our own story. And the people who come to MB&F are coming also as much for the why we do what we do as what we do. And if you resonate on the why, and not everybody does, actually most people don't. Most people today want to, do I have the watch that everybody wants and can't have, but I actually have it? And, oh, can I make money selling this? I don't have those clients, because I'm not going to BS them and tell them this is what's going to happen. Because when you wear an MB&F, nobody knows what it is. And honestly, give me till end of this year. But up till now, you still can't make money selling an MB&F. So we have incredible customers. We have many more customers who've got 3 to 28 MB&F than customers who've got 1 and 2. Because when you like what we do, you love it. And you get part of the story, and actually it's something amazing. I'll sidetrack and give you the story of a car, because I don't want to mention any watch brands. When you buy a Porsche is a fantastic car. It's iconic. It's super reliable, super fast, great resale value, etc., etc. When you buy a Porsche doesn't give a damn about the fact that you buy it. Why? Because they do 250,000 cars a year. And if you buy it, okay, but if you don't, we don't care. If you buy, again, arguably much more expensive, especially recently, a Pagani from Orazio Pagani. Now he crafts 20 cars a year. He's put his whole life in this story, and I'm a car guy. And everybody I know in the car industry looks at Orazio and says, how is he still alive? I mean, how is his company still alive? There is, even at selling his cars at 1 or 2 million or 3 million or whatever, it's like, we don't understand how he can even live with that. And I have a certain amount of customers, amazingly, who've got Paganis. And they all tell me the same thing. When I buy a Pagani, I'm helping Orazio fulfill his dream. I am part, you're as a customer, when you buy a small independent, you are part of the creative process. No, we don't ask you your advice, but you're allowing us to create the next piece. And that in itself is incredibly strong. Again, that doesn't speak to everybody. So I think that's one of the many reasons that during the pandemic, when we were online and doing Zooms and IG Lives and talking to people, a lot of people say, you know what, I want one of those pieces. But you have to ask my customers. I'm probably the worst person to ask. So that's it. So now, Oh, what advice? What advice? Have a great purpose for your team and for your company. And if you have a great why, for those who've read Simon Sinek know what I'm talking about, you will resonate 10 times stronger with people who love what you do. And it's something I said in an interview a few weeks ago, which made a lot of noise. As an owner or a CEO, basically as a CEO, you've got to care much more for your team and for your clients than for your shareholders. And me as an owner of the company, I've always put my team and my clients before making money. And so that, I think, resonates with the customers who understand that. And of course, stay in contact and be true, be real. These guys who go on their Zooms and IG lives to tell you the corporate story. Oh my God, you want to shoot your brains out. It's like, oh, no, don't start telling me, oh, the manufacturer is 150 years old. I mean, that's not what we're here for. We're all blocked at home. We're all living difficult times. Let's talk human. Let's talk real. Let's talk what really makes you resonate. And it's very difficult because when you're in a big brand, you're not allowed to say that. Everything I've just been talking about, you're not allowed to say that. Remember Harry Winston, when we got bought over by a publicly owned company in the last 2 years I was there? I received a book, a friggin' book, which was all the things you're not allowed to say in an interview. It was like, well, then I probably never should see anybody, because with everything I'm not allowed to say, it's pointless that I speak to anybody. So yeah, it's complicated when you're a bigger publicly owned company in these sort of times.
Thank you, Max. Thank you. That was really nice of you.
I've just taken up an hour of your life, guys. Maybe if there are any, I don't know if you go on, but I've got another half an hour. So let's make the best of it.
Yes, we have a quick rapid fire to play with you. So Nidhi, can you just take over?
For sure. Thank you, Max. That was a lovely thing. I mean, I don't think we want to stop at asking you questions, because you just keep coming up with these great stories. So, but in the paucity of time, we designed a very quick game, a fun game to get to know you better. So the answers are just going to be one word. You just have to select this or that, or give me answers in one word. So first question, automobiles or watches?
Watches.
Okay.
Because if it was automobiles today, nothing much passionate happening, or few people like Horatio and Christian Koenigsegg and so on.
But 20 years back, watches or automobiles?
Still would have been watches, because that became my family.
Okay, cool. Okay, and 20 years ahead, do you think digital stores, only e-commerce, or boutiques for watches?
Oh. I have absolutely no idea, but it doesn't seem possible in our world of absolutely stunning finishing and emotion when you see a piece that everything would be online. I would think that would be impossible. But again, an iPhone, if I'm not wrong, is only 12 years old. Mm-hmm. So things are going so fast, I probably couldn't say anything.
Okay, cool. I'll make it easier for you. Watchmaking, do you think mind or heart for watchmaking? What do you go with? What would you go with for watchmaking, mind or heart? I think I know your answer though, but
don't have easy questions, huh? Starts with the heart, has to go through the brain. Otherwise, I will have 2,000 pieces coming back in after sales service.
Okay, but when it comes to personal relations, mind or heart?
Heart has to be.
Okay, cool. Dubai or Switzerland?
Personally, Dubai. Professionally, Switzerland.
Okay. We heard you say an example on Porsche, but were you to go with a Tesla or a Jaguar?
Whatever it is, it's not electrical. And I'm not
Okay.
sure it's a Jaguar.
Okay, all right. Okay. Max as a boss or Max as an artist?
As a boss, did you say?
Yes.
No, as an artist. That's the more. I'm not even the CEO of my own company anymore.
Oh, okay. Great. The first watch that you ever bought for your wife, I'm presuming you have.
Yes. Every time I buy a watch, I wonder why, because she never wears them. But I keep on buying them. First watch I got for Tiffany. It's probably a 1966 Rolex Air King in steel with a red dial, which is of course not original. But the guy, the seller, who was like super certified on eBay, told me absolutely it's original. I was like, Air Kings have ever read that. So I even called up Aurel Bax, who's a really good friend of mine. It's like, Aurel, he's like, of course not. And when I got it, it's an interesting, sorry, I always talk. When I got the watch, I brought it to, my team said, look, it's not water resistant. So I brought it to the specialist of vintage Rolexes. And he called me up and he said, you're lucky you're you. I'm like, sorry? Because normally I would never repair this. So what do you mean? He said, okay, case back, not original. Crown, not original. I mean, not even of the existing model. Stem of the crown, not a watch stem, is some piece of metal they've shoved in it. The glass is not a watch glass. It's a piece of plexiglass that somebody has machined and glued onto the case. And I never bought a vintage Rolex in my life. I was like, what? And that's when I discovered the horrendous life of buying a pre-owned or a vintage watch at any given time.
Oh my God, that sounds like a trip.
Does your wife know all of this?
Sorry?
Does your wife know of all of this?
Yes, of course. Yes. Again, being transparent. She exactly knows what she gets with me.
Okay, cool. As a subject, probably back when you're studying, engineer or arts?
Oh. I hated my engineering studies.
Oh. So that puts it.
But today I'm very grateful I did them. You remember Karate Kid, the film?
Mm-hmm.
No, you're way too young. But you remember when he has to paint the thing and clean the glass and whatever?
Oh yes.
That's what engineering was with me. I hated it. I was like, why the hell have I have to do all this stuff? And then, as the years continued as a watch creator and an engineer, and I realized that it just comes naturally afterwards.
So it taught you indirectly.
Doing it, oh God.
Okay. Basel or SIHH?
Oh, no, none anymore.
Yeah, that's true. But previously,
we did both. We were the only brand to do both. And when they decided to go on the same dates, which was 2020, which didn't happen, we chose SIHH.
Okay. I'm presuming you would have eaten and consumed some Indian food. Do you have any favorites of the Indian dishes?
Bhel puri.
Oh, of course. And that's a Bombay specialty. Cool. And one last question. Design for you does it need to be perfect, or it's like a beauty in chaos?
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but balance is not. You see watches today and something is wrong, or a lot is wrong. And you look at them and like, this just doesn't work. Now, I always look at now round watches, which can be completely wrong. I'm like, how can you do a wrong round watch today? I mean, you've got 100 years of history showing you great examples, and you can still make terrible lugs and bezels which just don't look right, and they don't fit on your wrist. And you're like, when we do horological machines, oh my God, that is a whole new story, because from every single angle, it has to look balanced. It has to be look right.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
One last one, Max. When I say the word Bombay, what is the first thing which comes into your mind? We know you have a connection with Bombay.
My mom, of course. She was a Bombayite.
Yeah, fun fact. Yep.
And I love this Bombay, and it's not Mumbai.
Yes, we all do, I think, somewhere.
Hope to
Can
see
we
you.
do a wrist check for you? We wanted to see what you're wearing. We saw the blue dye.
My Perpetual Evo in zirconium, we launched in October last year for one of the two pieces we did for the 15th anniversary. So 3 times 15. They're all gone, unfortunately. So don't worry, there's other things in the pipeline.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This was super interesting for me. I'm going to pass you on to Viranchi, who's going to take up some couple of questions from the audience as well.
Thank you, Nidhi. And yes, it's been a wonderful session so far. And I really appreciate, the audience for being so patient. To be honest, I feel like I'm a dam that's holding a bunch of questions, So now this dam is going to, the dam is going to break open, and I'm mad about how the team is for you, and even also more important are the customers who actually allow you to make your vision come true. So I would like to invite a member of your tribe, our very own Mr. Umesh Agarwal, to come up and speak. He is your customer, and there are very few right now in India who dare to go where you are. So Umesh, I hand it over to you.
I will do a wrist check, my LM Perpetual. So, and there's a nice story to it, how I got this watch. I wanted to buy an MB&F, and there were a few of these LM Perpetual with different case dials. So I didn't know what to do. So I contacted Max directly. I told him, see, I am a bit confused. You give me an advice. What should I buy? So he asked me to take this titanium green dial. He said this is a very good piece, and fortunately he was wearing that on that day. So he posted a picture of that on my WhatsApp, and there I just decided to buy this piece. Max, you remember?
Of course I remember. And for the anecdote, it's a limited edition of 50 pieces, but we will disclose that there were actually 51 made. I've never done that because I love that watch so much that I had a number 0 made for myself, which I've never done in any of the other pieces over 16 years.
So all your pieces are stunning pieces, and my question to you is, when are we having the Mad Gallery in India?
Yeah.
I've always been asking you this question.
Wanted in Bombay.
wherever, but one in India. And another question is, where do you see MB&F 15 or 20 years from now?
Big questions. The first one, I'm incredibly sad that every time I have done business with an Indian partner in my horological life, I've been screwed. At Harry Winston, at MB&F. It's always been appalling. And that has sort of made me incredibly sad because for me, it's so important that in my mother's country, we be there. And there are so many actually Indian owners of MB&F today. But there's some sort of a disconnect between my ethics and those in my industry in India, which have made it that I've been scarred too much and I don't dare go any further. The other thing which is happening is that normally by the end of this year, if everything we've planned happens, we will be actually cutting 20% of our retailers every year from now on. So we're cutting 4 this year, another 4 next year. And because we just don't, when we presented our novelties of first semester in Zoom, actually 1/3 of our retailers will not get any novelty. So it's not that we're arrogant, it's just I don't want my company to grow. And I've got today retailers who do an incredibly great business and others who just want the cherry on the cake. And if they sell 3-4 watches a year, they only want, of course, the cherries. And imagine like, oh, I want Rolex, but just give me the Hulks and the Daytonas and the Batmans, please. And so at our little level, we can't continue that way. So we're much more in a closing perspective than an opening perspective. The other thing which is happening is that I have recently had in the last 2 months, 3 of our major partners in the world who have offered to open a Mad Gallery for us. And we're like, we've already got 4. We can't go from 4 to 7. And we're like thinking, oh my God, how are we going to do this? And one is on Rodeo Drive, another one is this. And it's like incredible opportunities. And we're like, okay, so unfortunately, India is on the back burner for the moment. Second question. I have absolutely no clue. I have no idea where the brand is going to be in 15 to 20 years. If you had told me 16 years ago when I created it that I was going to create a round watch, of course, that I was going to create clocks, that I was going to create a gallery, that I was going to create a few of the things you're going to see this year, that I was going to do a ladies' watch, I was like, no, I'm never going to do a ladies' watch. This is not about, it's about me. It's about me now. And so I've understood that every time I say it's never going to happen, there's a strong chance something's going to happen.
Something is going to happen.
So, and honestly, we change. As I said, it's been my intense 16-year psychotherapy. I'm not at all the same man, and I've become a father, and that of course changes everything. And so I know exactly what's going to happen in the next 5 to 7 years, because if I don't, it's not going to happen, because that's the lag time you need to create all these pieces. Everybody thinks it takes a year, because every year we come out with something new. Like, oh, the amount of people who come to me and say, oh, so do you know what you're going to come out with next year? Like, dude, it takes 4 to 5 years to engineer a piece like that. So of course I know what's going to come out. Yeah, I know that, but afterwards I don't know. And that's the beauty. As a youngster, I needed certitude. I needed to be sure of everything. I needed to be reassured. I needed to have a plan. Because if I didn't have a plan, I wouldn't go there. Now at 54 years old, what I love is I have no plan, no idea what's going to go on, and I have no idea what stupid idea is going to come out of my head tomorrow in an hour. And that's fantastic. That's absolutely incredible. I hope that sort of answered. It probably was not the answer at all in both cases you were expecting or hoping for, so I'm very sorry.
All right, I'm going to ask something now, Max. Can I ask something? I want you to talk to everyone about an interesting topic of creativity. Can I ask you that?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So I think some of the things that I can perceive from these conversations is asking the question, how can we do what Max has done, right? A lot of people want to know how to replicate the success of the people they admire, especially in the watch industry. And we could talk about that for hours and hours. But the specific thing that I want you to tell everyone about is how to create within yourself the confidence to convince other people to make your creative decisions alive. Because one thing you've been able to do is convince a team around you to build your baby, to incubate your idea, not to have them necessarily do their ideas, but to make your idea alive in their way. Give people some advice on how to do that, because you and I know that this industry lacks from a lot of people that have creative confidence. A lot of the creative people don't have enough power. And so creativity gets sort of pushed in the side. And you've been in this really fortunate position where you have creativity inside of you, and you've been in situations where it's been allowed to blossom. And that's been, in my opinion, the key for your success. Give people some advice on how to unlock their inner creativity and have the confidence and then the charisma to have other people bring it to life.
Before you come up to anybody with a great creative idea, the ideal situation is you've already built trust. Now that seems a bit weird what I'm saying, but if when I launched MB&F, I would be the same guy with the same Parsi nose and the same ideas and the same product, but I'd been a logistics manager at Omega, MB&F would not exist. Not that I don't like Omega, I love Omega. But the whole point is, because at Harry Winston, I was lucky enough to save the company with a team and build it, I worked with all these watchmakers, suppliers who knew I am 100% trustworthy. So when I went to see them, and I said, I've got my new idea, they knew that I always respect my word. If they didn't know me, it's like, oh, this guy, do I want to take the risk? Same thing happened with the retailers. Same thing happened with the press, etc. So you spend your life building trust. And a lot of people think they can game the system. Coming back to karma. Gaming the system will come and bite you. So first thing, your life is your success. And it starts very young. From there, if you've got that base, I'll just speak as a creative person in the watch world. You can only create if you do not think of your customer, meaning do not think, oh, this will sell, because you're anyway going to skewer completely your idea, or you're going to be terrified and you're not going to do it. Do not think of your shareholder, whoever he is, even if it's you. Because if you do, you're going to be petrified and you're never going to take that risk. And be ready to battle with any management in your team who is going to actually be your enemy. And that's one of the simple thing I've been telling for a decade now, and every conference I go to is the three biggest enemies of creativity. One is shareholder value. Two is CMOs, chief marketing officers. And three is middle management. And that's the third. People more or less understand the first two. They don't get the third. Now, I have absolutely nothing against people who are in middle management. They're incredibly important. But what is the role of a middle management person? Is to take the risk out of the equation. He is paid or she is paid for that, to make the thing work. And what works better than something which has already been tested and worked before? The same thing. So when you're I hate that word, disruptive creator, middle management will always be your number one enemy in your team, because they don't want you, once they've got a formula which works, to go say, oh, now let's go and do something completely different. Like, oh my God. So that's why typically my team, we're a very weird company. And that's why I don't want it to grow. We're 5 directors and 26 people directly with us. We have no middle management. Of course, that works because we're 30. If we're 300, it wouldn't be possible. That's also why I don't want my company to grow. But I'm sure there are ways to choose the right people in middle management who are ready to take risks. I always remember one of my cousins was he's been in hotel business and 5-star hotels as a GM for a very long time. And he created a hotel in Mauritius 15 years ago. And I asked him, I said, so how do you recruit people for your amazingly beautiful 5-star hotel? He said, well, I usually don't hire people from the hotel business because they've already got a lot of bad habits. I said, okay, but then what else? He says, I hire people who, in the face of difficulty, put one step forward instead of one step back. Most people, in front of a problem, will step back or not move. A few people will step forward. Those are the people you have to hire in your team if you want your crazy ideas to actually become reality. Does that make sense?
I had to hunt for unmute, sorry. Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think what's important is, I try to deconstruct into simple terms what a lot of these beautiful creations are. And one of the words that I like to use a lot, which is sort of like, you know, something that you wouldn't want to say in a lot of like luxury marketing sessions, is toy. And as flattering or unflattering as people see it, I think of luxury watches being aspirational toys, at least the best of today's watches. You know, there's a sort of discussion of vintage watches and modern watches, and what really makes the sort of line of difference between them is vintage watches were when people needed watches, and modern watches were when watches are fun. And today, when you look at an MB&F watch, it is, you know, it is a lavish, high-end, ornate, detail-oriented, functional toy that you made for yourself that makes you happy, and other people like you who want that joy. And going back to your discussion about how you had surprising success during the pandemic, that's great, and congratulations, but it's not at all surprising, seeing the data that I've seen and the research that I've seen, is that during the pandemic, when a lot of people have felt bad, they've gone to luxury watches, their hobby, to feel better through retail therapy. It's a feel-good purchase. And so your job is to say, hey, out of all those items out there which are designed to make you feel good, mine makes you feel the best because I have the most attention to detail. There's the most passion and enthusiasm in it. And so, you know, talking about being a creative autocrat, as you will, makes sense, because you can't amalgamate your dream, right? You can't have 5 people in a room saying like, I wonder what Max's dream is. Only Max knows what Max's dream is. And I think the power of luxury watches today is their power to be these aspirational toys. And there's no shame in that whatsoever.
I think that's a wonderful discussion there. And
sorry.
so I call on Asrar, who is our BWE member, for the next question.
Hi, Max. It's a pleasure seeing you and hearing you once again. I've heard you at various events. I've had the pleasure to meet you once personally at Basel. Max, my question is, I've taken a lot from everything that you've said today. It resonates with me because I'm a perfumer by passion and luckily by profession as well. So I create a lot of stuff, and there's this philosophy that I use that I would like to call my own, but I can't. I've borrowed it from a gentleman who works for, if I'm not getting the company right, it's Ferrero Rocher. I think it's not the chocolate company. It's a company that makes these musical boxes. I'm sure you know about them. It's a very old company, and they make these very expensive mechanical musical boxes. He once told me at an exhibition in Bahrain that we as consumers, as customers, we're all out there to buy emotions. We're all looking to buy emotions. That's all we buy in every sphere, in every product, in everything that we buy emotions. And the background story to that is, I think 7 or 8 years back at Basel, when you were exhibiting in this, not in the main hall, but in this villa that's adjacent to the main hall, sort of a villa, sort of a glass house. You were exhibiting there, and you were explaining, I think it was a legacy machine. You were explaining about that to a couple of Chinese enthusiasts. And I happened to overhear the story that you were sharing with them. And I met this gentleman there as well at Basel. He was with me. So he said, when we both heard your story, and he said, you see, it's about emotions. There's a lot of emotions that he's put into the products which have come out, and he's able to explain that story, which is what gets to the customer's need for buying those emotions. What's your take on this from a consumer perspective? Are you selling to those emotions? Are you creating to those emotions, Max?
Thank you for the question. It's a tricky one. I'm gonna, first of all, we're in a world, contrary to a lot of art world, where there is insane engineering artisanship to transform ideas into reality. So I have a thing that I have no problem whatsoever for people disliking what we do or hating what we do and saying it's fugly, and I've heard all sorts of things. I have no problem with that. I have a problem if you dare say it's not well made. It's extraordinary engineering and artisanship and hand finish, like virtually no brand in the world does anymore. And the problem I have with my industry is that 30 years ago when we started, we were all artisans. Jägerkult was doing everything by hand still. And then companies grew, started doing 20, 30, 40, 50, 60,000, 100,000, 500,000 watches a year. And you realize that it starts getting everything is industrial, because there's no way you're going to find the hand anglers to do as many watches as that's absolutely impossible. And the engravings get machined, everything. And quickly, I think a certain amount of key players realized that if we're going to speak only to knowledgeable customers, i.e. geeks, which I believe we all are, and I say that with enormous love, then your market is this small. Because there are very few people who actually really want to know about it and really going to get educated. So they realized we have to start talking to many more people. And who are we going to target? All the people who've got a lot of money but are not geeks. And these people don't want to hear about the hand angling, the inner angles. They don't want to hear about the Vogue curve on the spiral. They don't want to hear about all that. They want to hear that if you wear this, you're going to look sexy, you're going to look successful. Oh, that incredible sports guy is wearing the same, that actor is wearing the same. And that worked incredibly well. And that's what boosted completely the sales. And there's been a general dumbing down of the customer. We as an industry don't really want the customer to understand or to know. Because if he did, oh my God. And so storytelling, the emotions, has been a guideline over all these years. But often it hasn't been directed where it should be. When some of my independent colleagues talk about their pieces, they talk about themselves, they talk about what they love, they talk about their story. Why do I love a Voutilainen or a Grunefeld or I mean, you name it, there's some of the, even a Ressence, my friend Benoit. It's because they don't know how to do anything else in their life. It's their way of expressing themselves. They're incredibly creative, incredibly, even some are more hand-finished than others, but there is a real story behind it. And when you wear one of those pieces on your wrist, you've got the soul of that creator. And it's not some, excuse my English, marketing bullshit, which has been sold so that you have emotions. So the why, I'm coming back to the why a company exists, why a brand exists, why a product is made, is incredibly more important for me than all the beautiful stories around it. And I think we're in a phase of our industry where you have to start separating all these pseudo emotions from real emotions. And I'm going to again make myself a lot of friends here.
Very well put, Max. Thank you. And just a quick time check. We may have time for 2 more questions. The next one is from another BWE member, Ruchit. Do you want to come up?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. So my question is, when you're planning to design a watch, what are the kind of factors that you take into consideration? Is it like, are you looking to really design something unique? You look at what the market wants, what is going on in the market. So when you're coming up with a new design for a new watch, what all factors do you take into account? What is it that really goes into the creation of a design, the base design that you come up with? What all factors do you consider to make one?
MB&F, for the moment, is still my autobiography. Meaning, I started initially sketching. For many years, I was sketching, and my sketches would bring me somewhere where I didn't know where I was going. And then often I would say, oh, it looks like a plane. Oh, it looks like a spaceship. Oh, look, this looks like a car. And I used to love play Star Trek or whatever, or that maybe is where it comes from. So basically, I would let my sketching take me wherever I was going. As I said previously, we never look at the market, never give a damn about the market. It's we create what we believe in. Nobody in the market would ever think that it's a great idea to do a watch which looks like 2 reactors, or a watch which looks like a dashboard, or etc. etc. Now, maybe 16 years later, everybody would say, yes, of course, that's what the market wants. But when we create it, there's nobody wants it. So we always, I always start with a personal story. I've told the story often of the HM7, the Aquapod, which came to me when we were on holiday in Ras Al Khaimah, before we actually came to Dubai, with my wife. And she ran into the sea, and she came out running, screaming, and it was full of jellyfish. And she got stung, and we spent the whole week, and it was a terrible holiday because it was jellyfish all the time, everywhere. So here I am on the beach. I've traveled 6,000 kilometers to not be able to go into the water. And but then you look at them all the time, and they're absolutely fascinating, beautiful creatures. And then here I am thinking, if I was going to do that mechanically, what would it look like? What if? And that's how the process starts. Does the world of watchmaking need a 52 millimeter diameter, flying tourbillon, jellyfish-looking watch? I doubt it. But do I need to do it? Do my team need to do it? Of course we need to do it. So that's how it works.
Thank you.
Great. And this is our last question. I'd like to call on Emma Houghton. She's a watchmaker with Gronefeld.
Oh, wonderful. I used the right example, clearly.
Hi, yes, indeed. And so I wanted to come back quite fast theme part. I mean, it's also from a watchmaker's view, you're standing behind your brand where you're working for. I mean, you want to work on something you love, and I think you don't have to sell it to your team because your team will probably really love the products. So that's the other side of the story, of course. But my question was, what's your favorite complication?
You're cutting up, so I can't really hear everything.
Oh, really? So, well, I'll just ask the question. Well, what's your favorite complication?
Oh, my favorite complication. Okay. Actually, I don't think I have a favorite complication. I love the challenge. I love the challenge of reinterpreting what the great masters did 150, 200 years ago and trying to do something in our way. So for me, an interesting, you take our Legacy 2 or our HM9, which is the double flying balance wheel.
Mm-hmm.
So there are very few double balance wheel movements in the history of watchmaking. There was Ferdinand Berthoud started, but it was completely different without a differential. Then, of course, Antti Janvier and Abraham Louis Breguet did the Sympathique, but it was basically 2 movements on 1 base plate. So it's not at all the same concept. Then you get to the 1930s. I mean, all the research I've done, you get 5 or 6 pocket watches created in the École d'Horlogerie of the Vallée de Joux, using for the first time 2 balance wheels and a differential. Then why do you think Philippe Dufour created the first wristwatch with 2 balance wheels, the duality, in 96? Because of course he's at the Vallée de Joux. He saw those pocket watches in the school of Vallée de Joux where he was teaching, and he said, okay, I'm going to try and make it a wristwatch. 1999, I'm having a dinner with collectors. I'm still in Harry Winston, and yeah, definitely. So I just arrived in actually Harry Winston, and the gentleman in front of me is wearing a very small classic watch. I can't make it out. I say, excuse me, what are you wearing? And he says, it's a Philippe Dufour. Whoa, I mean, how many Philippe Dufours do you see like that in your life? And so I said, oh, can I see it? And I'm sure it's a simplicity, because that's everybody's talking about the simplicity in those days. So I take it, I turn it around, and there I see the 2 balance wheels. first ever wristwatch in history to have 2 balance wheels and the differential. And he only did 9 of them. And I'm like, excuse my English. And I remember thinking, this is so beautiful. Why do you put it at the back? It makes no sense. If one day I was going to do this, I would like to see those 2 balance wheels on the top. It took me 14 years to create Legacy 2, or first to create MB&F, and then to create Legacy 2, and to be able to put my 2 flying balance wheels, my differential on the thing.
And you made something just beautiful. It's great.
Thank you so much. And I did it also because I worked with great people from Jean-François Mojon, Kari Voutilainen, and it's interesting again, for all of you guys who think creativity and business and market, a simplicity today goes, I mean, the last auction house, I'm not talking about the new series, it's just done was like 400, 500, 600,000 francs when it was retailing at 50. And there were 220 made or something like that. The Duality, there were 9 made. And the last one sold for $1 million, but that was way before everybody went crazy about Philippe Dufour. And when I asked Philippe, when I came out with the Legacy 2, I sat down with him and I said, why did you only do 9? You know what his answer was? He said, A, because it's a nightmare to regulate, because of course you can't put it on the Vici, because you can't have a microphone with 2 hearts. So it's a complete nightmare to regulate manually and just basically leaving it on your desk, on your établi, how do you say, on your...
As a clock.
And you just wait for weeks to see that if it's working or not. And secondly, he said, because nobody wanted to buy them. Nobody wanted to buy them.
But that's always in the beginning, I think. I think you had the problems in the beginning as well, right?
Because only very, very, very few people understand greatness. And all the others follow. There you go. I don't know if I answered your question, but I haven't given you the right communication. But for me, it's actually always so why do I love Stephen McDonald's perpetual calendar on top of the human being, which I just worship, is the story of how we met and how he helped me save my company, and then how I helped him afterwards, and he came up saying, I want to do a perpetual. And I said, no, I'm never going to do a perpetual because perpetuals do not work. They stop, they jam, they break. When that doesn't happen, the customer breaks it himself, and I'm never going to do a perpetual. And in 3 minutes, he explained to me why all perpetuals make no sense. I was like, what? It's been going on for 150 years. He said, yeah, and so what? Because Stephen McDonald never went to watchmaking school. So he taught himself trying to understand schematics, trying to understand why things were made. And he just didn't understand the perpetual. He said, it doesn't make any sense. And then he explained it to me, and I was like, oh my God. And this gentleman who's never gone to watchmaking school, who's a theology scholar of Oxford University, created the most revolutionary perpetual calendar in history. Isn't that an amazing story?
It is. But I think it's sometimes if you come from a different perspective, it's so much easier to just change things because you didn't grow up in this way, you know.
It's very difficult for you if you've been taught something to challenge it.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. But I love what you do with
everything. In the future, Emma, is to challenge everything you've been taught.
I do, and they go crazy about it. I stop asking why do you want to just try it that way? But it's nice.
There you go.
Where you go forward.
Do we have time for one more? It's
one more. 5 minutes. I have to go to my next Zoom. I'm sorry, guys.
Viranji, pick.
Okay. I take the liberty to ask this question myself. I have been a manufacturing guy. Okay, so I'm curious that from the design sketch to the prototype and then to final production, in the last 14 years, which aspect of a particular watch maybe was the most difficult?
Actually, it all boils down to talent. Stephen McDonnell, single-handedly with the assist of my team, created a 581 component movement, which when we assembled it the first time with revolutionary systems, with the like mechanical process, which had never been done in watchmaking, etc., worked immediately. That never has happened in my life before, and I don't expect it to happen after. Well, yes, because we're doing a second caliber with Stephen, which is revolutionary, and I hope, I'm not actually hope, I know it's going to work. But for all the others, I will not tell you which one, but there's one caliber, which we worked with an outside engineer watchmaker who thinks he's a genius. And there were over 300 errors in his construction. 300 errors. It's all about talent. And that is also why now, except for Stephen McDonnell, I've got my 5 engineers in-house, and we do everything in-house. Because trust goes to here, and then you just get burned. So it's not always happened, but it's often happened. And now it's our internal team and Stephen.
So I think we are at the end of it. We'll end the question and answer here.
Right.
So Max.
So we'll hand it over to Rithi then.
Yeah, Rithi.
So Max, thank you so much for joining us today. And, you know, as a maker of time, you've given us your precious 1.5 hours to us. So thank you so much. It was a very insightful session. The questions weren't getting over, and time is always short with you, I guess.
Let's do a second session.
We would love that.
But so coming to the second session, there's a lot of exciting news coming up for BWE also. So Max, you'll be one of the first few to know, of course. So we are working on something else internally right now. So everyone stay tuned. And Max, it was so good to know you. You are an engineer who believes in karma. You are an artist who also thinks from his head, because that's not what we always hear. You are running a company, but you're just a part of the company. You are a creative or an enlightened dictator of sorts. So a lot of contradictions, and I think that's what defines Max, you know, from HM going crazy to LM, coming back to your roots. So if I sum it up, I can't. I mean, and I had a question, and with him we were discussing that, you know, what is Max? What is he going to do later? What do you think? You know, what do we think is the path for MB&F? And we just agree with you that, you know, if you have a path, you'll probably lose your path, you know. So I think you're one of those guys who doesn't need a path, because, you know, you make your path every day in the morning when you get up, and you just say, okay, fine, let's do this. I think it'll be very difficult to work with you. I mean, God bless your team. But
it is. I will agree.
Yeah, but I'm sure it's a lot of fun too. I mean, having such an insane boss, so as to speak. But thank you so much for joining in, for spending this time with us. We hopefully will turn into your tribe very soon. I mean, we still consider us your tribe, right? At the end,
there is no need to buy any of our pieces. Let's be very clear. I am not here for this.
Yeah.
What I love is to share with like-minded people, and there are not enough out there. And that's already, I mean, this has been a great moment. Thank you very much, everybody.
And apart from your previous connection from Bombay, of course, your mom, I think you have very strong connection now with us. We are also your extended family in Bombay. I mean, we know that you've had certain puddles to step into when you walked into India. But that's all right, you know, it's all good. We all deserve a second chance, right? So I think whenever all these things open up and we are ready to fly, we should probably come to Dubai to meet you and the Mad Gallery. And then we should pick you up and get you here.
Absolutely. I'll come with my family there. My family needs to know its roots. My wife has been a few times with me. My elder daughter went once. Now we've got a second daughter who's never been, so she really needs to. We need to go back.
For sure. Wow. Hopefully everything.
I need Belpuri.
Of course.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy your Sunday or Sunday evening for most of you. And I hope to speak to you all very soon. And à bientôt.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.